Welcome to this explainer. Look, we spend decades literally sprinting toward a finish line, hyper-focused on the numbers in our bank accounts. But what actually happens to our minds when we finally cross it? Today, we're diving into the quiet, unspoken psychological shift that happens when the farewell party ends, the cake is eaten, and the stark reality of retirement depression sets in. So let's talk about the culturally accepted American dream of total freedom versus the reality millions actually face once those paychecks stop. Retirement is heavily marketed to us, right? It's sold as this ultimate reward. Endless vacations, no alarm clocks violently ringing at 6 a.m., absolutely zero stress. But the data tells a much heavier story. For so many people, after the congratulations texts fade away, that supposed total freedom turns into this quiet, growing emptiness. Imagine waking up on a random Tuesday at 9 a.m. and realizing there is absolutely nothing you have to do today. It's a massive shock to the system, mainly because nobody really prepares you for the silence.
And honestly, that silence leads directly to a really painful question that strikes right at the core of the retirement identity crisis. If I'm not useful anymore, then what am I? Just sit with that for a second. When you suddenly lose your entire professional structure, you don't necessarily feel free. Actually, you often feel utterly lost. Without the meetings, the responsibilities, or that daily validation of simply being needed, people can experience a rapid emotional decline. This isn't just boredom we're talking about. It's a profound crisis of self-worth. You see, in the US, work isn't just a job or a way to get income. It's basically the invisible scaffolding of our lives. It provides identity, structure, and purpose. Work tells us who we are, it organizes our days, and frankly, it gives us a concrete reason to get out of bed. When you retire, sure, you might replace the income with your savings, but if you don't actively replace the identity, structure, and purpose, the whole foundation holding up your mental well-being simply collapses.
Section 1. The Invisible Loneliness Epidemic.
Take a moment to really let this sink in, because older adults are actually among the most isolated groups in America. The biggest shock of retirement usually isn't financial at all, it's entirely social. Research shows nearly 1/3 of older adults feel isolated. Think about it. The workplace banter, the casual daily interactions, checking in with colleagues, all of that vanishes literally overnight. Your kids are busy with their own careers, friends might relocate, and suddenly your daily interaction drops to near zero. And loneliness is incredibly insidious. It doesn't kick the door down, it just creeps in, day by day, empty afternoon by empty afternoon, until it becomes your new, suffocating normal. Here's something that absolutely blew my mind. Loneliness isn't just an emotional ache, it's a biological threat. The research is crystal clear on this. Chronic loneliness puts your body in a constant state of stress, which spikes your cortisol levels. It actively increases your risk for clinical depression, it accelerates memory decline, and get this, it carries a heart disease risk comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. The isolation is literally attacking your biology. It turns out the human brain loves a little friction. It thrives on patterns. When you're working, your brain is getting a daily workout. You're problem solving, managing time, navigating complex social dynamics. But when you remove all that structure in retirement, the brain becomes dramatically underused. And no, this isn't just normal aging. This sudden lack of engagement directly causes cognitive slowdown, noticeable memory issues, and a massive drop in motivation. It's the ultimate use it or lose it scenario. If you don't use those neural pathways, you genuinely lose them. Now, compound all of that cognitive slowdown with the silent pressure of finances. Even if you planned everything perfectly, the landscape shifts. Rising healthcare costs hit way harder than expected, inflation eats away at your purchasing power, and unexpected expenses are going to pop up. When you're sitting alone at home worrying about outliving your savings, that stress amplifies so fast. Financial uncertainty is scary at any age, but when you're isolated and lack daily distractions, that anxiety just loops in your head endlessly, and it can rapidly morph into depression. But here is the truth that no one tells you. The actual problem isn't the concept of retirement itself. The problem is the total lack of a transition plan for your mind and your heart. We spend decades obsessively mapping out our 401ks, but 0 minutes mapping out our psychological transition. The goal here isn't to hopelessly hold on to your past working life. The goal is to realize that this phase is an incredible, wide-open opportunity to forge a completely new, deeply meaningful purpose. Section 2. Reclaiming Your Life and Mind. We have to intentionally build a new identity from the ground up. Replacing your job means piecing together new psychological fuel. You just can't stop working and expect to magically feel fulfilled. You have to actively replace the meaning you lost. This could look like mentoring younger professionals in your old field, doing some part-time consulting, diving into teaching, or taking on community leadership roles. These are not just ways to pass the time. They are vital sources of psychological fuel that remind you that you are still deeply needed in this world.
Because absolute freedom without structure turns into emotional chaos, your brain absolutely needs daily anchors. You might hate the sound of alarms right now, but secretly, your mind loves routine. Having endless, unstructured hours is just a recipe for anxiety, so establish a morning walk to kick off the day, block out dedicated time for reading, and plan a specific social interaction. These aren't rigid, high-stress corporate schedules. Think of them as gentle guardrails that give your day a shape. A beginning, a middle, and an end.
Building on that structure, rebuilding your social circle is absolutely non-negotiable. Because the workplace water cooler is officially gone, you literally have to go out and build your own. And yeah, this means stepping out of your comfort zone. Join a community center, get active in a spiritual group, find a local hobby club, gardening, chess, a fitness group, whatever works for you. Local volunteering is incredible for this too. Loneliness only weakens when connection becomes highly intentional. You have to actively manufacture your own social collisions now. And we absolutely cannot ignore the mind-body connection here. Studies show over and over that physical activity significantly reduces late-life depression. And look, you don't need to be training for a marathon. We're talking about 20 to 30 minutes of walking, some light resistance training just to maintain muscle and bone density, and a daily stretching routine. Movement physically flushes out stress hormones and generates those endorphins your brain desperately needs to keep your mood stable and positive. Also, remember this, your brain doesn't retire. Science shows us that our brains retain neuroplasticity, which is the ability to form new connections well into old age. Keeping your mind engaged by learning new digital skills, picking up an instrument, or taking online courses about history or science, that is your ultimate defense against cognitive decline. When you force your brain to forge those new neural pathways, you are actively hitting the brakes on cognitive slowdown. Finally, and I cannot stress this enough, so many people suffer silently through this. Speaking openly about this transition to a professional or a support group can dramatically improve your emotional recovery. There is this unfortunate stigma, especially among older generations, about discussing mental health. But navigating a massive life transition is incredibly hard, and there is zero shame in seeking a guide. Talking to a counselor or joining a group with other retirees who are feeling that exact same sudden emptiness, that might just be the most powerful step you take toward reclaiming your joy.
Section 3, the real wealth of retirement. So, what is the real wealth in this phase of life? It's not the money in your bank account. True wealth is having purpose, connection, mental strength, and daily meaning. Obviously, yes, the finances need to be in order to survive, but to actually live, to thrive, you need these 4 emotional elements. Without them, retirement becomes one of the most psychologically challenging phases of your entire life. Not because your life is ending, but because an old identity died and a new one was never rebuilt. True wealth is waking up every single morning knowing exactly why your presence matters that day. If you or maybe someone you know is approaching this massive transition, I want to leave you with this final, absolutely crucial question to make sure you are truly prepared for what comes next. You plan the finances, but did you plan the life? Take the time to build your emotional portfolio with the exact same intensity you used to build your financial one. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this gives you the tools and the perspective to build a deeply fulfilling next chapter.